WHGE 95.3 FM. Coming up, the Open Eye. Hey, Shay. Good morning. Those of us that indulge in or commit intellectual violence don't do so for the pleasure of mental masturbation or ego diddling. We do so because the chains of oppression in our people's minds are deep and difficult to remove. Good morning, my children of the sun. Welcome to the Open Eye on WHGE 95.3 FM. I'm your host, Third Eye Optometrist, Patrice Gibbs. Here to get them started, here to get your third eye open. Yes, indeed. With the stuff that's going on in this country, in this world, you need that. Let me tell you. And as we always start, every generation has its purpose. Ours is to reveal the truth and reverse the brainwashing. And we do that right here. Let me get my disclaimer out the way right quick. There it is, okay. The views and opinions expressed on the Open Eye are those of the hosts, guests, and contributors and do not reflect the policy or position of WHGE 95.3 FM nor our sponsor, the Delaware Center for Homeless Vets. Any content provided by Open Eye's hosts, guests, or contributors are theirs and are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, company, or individual. All right. Let's get them started. Okay, I'm going to start here. This is from a teacher. The kids are going back to school and what have you. We usually went back after Labor Day, but things have changed, and some kids get started right in August. And one of the things that, well, let me read this to you. This is really tough, man. I actually kind of hated to bring it, but this is from teacher Marcia Jennings. I believe she's a first grade teacher. Ms. Jennings said, "It broke my heart these past 4 days to see how many kindergartners," she's a kindergarten teacher, "showed up to school with no previous exposure to almost anything. It was so overwhelming for them to understand the concept of staying in line, wiping themselves, buttoning their own pants, opening a milk container, holding a pencil correctly. I had one who didn't understand how to unzip his lunchbox so he could eat. Some can't tell you their name or don't know their actual given name that is on the roster. So many had never held a pencil at all. Couldn't sing the alphabet. Song. Let alone recognize any letters or numbers. Couldn't count to 10 or recognize shapes and colors. Sometimes when I post about these things, someone asks, isn't that what school is for? Why should parents have to do your job for you? Yes, school is for learning. But when they come in so far behind, right off the bat, it is so defeating and frustrating for these babies. Even at the age of 5, they recognize when they don't know things other kids know. If a child knows who Pennywise the clown is and can recite every word, including the explicit ones, in the latest Cardi B song, but can't recite the alphabet, count to 10, or even open a ketchup packet, we got a problem. Even if you choose not to send your child to preschool, lots of these things could be learned just by putting them in front of PBS or learning apps, rather than let them watch Japanese anime all day and playing mindless video games with no educational value for 4 years. If you know a child who will be starting school next year or had just started this week, please take the time to interact with them and help them prepare. It overwhelms their little minds so much to come in knowing nothing. Please help them. You know, I don't know if it's the generation or what it is, you know. I can remember by the time I was in the first grade, I could read and write. Not only could I read and write, but I could tell you who Patrice Lumumba was. And I was not an aberration. I was not something unusual in my neighborhood. All right, one of my best friends growing up, we went to first grade together. I'm going to call you out, Mr. Johnson. Me and Benny Johnson went to first grade together. We were so well taught at home that they wanted to skip us to the second grade. We were ready. We need that kind of devotion from parents now. Damn. Remember, they're closing they're shutting down the Department of Education. They're doing everything they can to make sure that your child is not educated. And don't put it on the teacher to feel bad that your child doesn't know the basics when they get there. The hell is wrong with you? Isn't that your job? Yes, it's your teacher's job. Yes. But give them a good foundation to start from. Damn. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. Hey, boy, I see you. It's there. Ooh. All right. We're going to keep it moving. Hey, Kev, how you doing, bro? Good to see you on there. Thanks for joining. All right, moving right along. WHGE 95.3 FM. Your host, Third Eye Optometrist, Patrice Gibbs here. All right. Listen. Let me tell you something, especially with all this mess going on. People dealing with this identity crisis and what have you. This is from Global African Presence. Family. An Igbo is not identical to a Zulu. But they are still African. A Wolof is not identical to a Kikuyu. But they are still African. A Yoruba is not the same as a Dogon. But they are still African. An African American is not identical to a Dinka. But they are still African. These differences do not make us more or less African or negate our African identity. We are African people born in different parts of the world. We are not identical, but we are one. More than that, we need each other and we must learn to see the big picture. Marcus Garvey put it straight. When asked if he was an African or a Jamaican, he responded with a classic line. Marcus Garvey said, "I will not give up a continent for an island. Garvey saw the big picture. So should we. And shit. And for those that don't want to be African, I understand because, you know, the colonizer has equated African with slave. Or we had the feeling that the African didn't fight back. He did. Did you know one of the first times the Portuguese tried to invade the kingdom of Congo, they ended up completely defeated? The European didn't just walk in and take over Africa. He didn't just walk in and our African ancestors gave him Africa. It was after this conquest of Mbubi in Angola by the Portuguese. King Nganga ordered the reconquest of his territory. So the Battle of Mbambi Kasi, the army of Congo, crushed the Portuguese and forced them out. So it actually took the Europeans about 500 years. And you hear people talk about Atlantis. And it's another myth in the Pacific. I forget the name of it. But according to German archaeologist Leo Frobenius, people from Atlantis visited West Africa, specifically a place called Ife in the southwestern part of Nigeria. He reached this conclusion in the early 1900s after remarkable bronze sculptures were uncovered there. These sculptures dated between the 12th and 15th century with incredibly naturalistic and advanced for their time, predating European contact with that region. Frobenius, based on the prevalent racist beliefs of his era, found it illogical to credit the local African people with creating such sophisticated art. Therefore, he concluded that the sculptures must have been made by an external, more advanced civilization, the mythical people of Atlantis. Even though the sculpture's features were strikingly similar to the faces of the people living in Ife. This theory is a prime example of how colonial era archaeologists often dismiss the artistic and intellectual capabilities of African civilizations. What they did was they made up some mythical people and said these Atlanteans came to Africa and taught the African. No. The African is the forebearer of civilization, art, literature, science, you name it. We civilize the world. Don't ever get that mixed. Ain't no goddamn people from Atlanta. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. All right, Patrice Gibbs here, your third eye optometrist, moving right along. Well, we know it's happened again. It won't be the last time. Yeah, it's happened again. What am I talking about? Don't you know? Minneapolis school shooting leaves 2 children dead. 17 people injured. A shooter opened fire Wednesday morning during mass at a Minneapolis Catholic school, killing 2 children and injuring 17 other people before killing himself. The city of Minneapolis is once again grieving after a horrific mass school shooting claimed the lives of 2 young children and left 17 others injured at the Annunciation Catholic School on the city's south side. The violence unfolded Wednesday morning during a school mass, shattering what should have been a moment of worship and community. Authorities say the gunman, a man in his early 20s, approached the church from the outside and opened fire with a rifle through the windows, aiming directly at children seated in the pews. He was also armed with a shotgun and a pistol. Hey, Steve, I see you, bro. Yeah. And how do our government react to this? Republicans in Congo wear AR-15 pins where their American flag pins used to be. Let that sink in for a moment. They pledge allegiance to a machine that slaughters children for profit rather than the country and the flag and the Constitution they swore to protect. Yeah. As we grapple with the tragedy in Minneapolis that has left 2 children gone forever and 17 seriously wounded, injured, remember this. The shooter did not act alone. He was assisted by 1 president, 219 House members, 53 senators, and the NRA. All you bastards have blood on your hands. The Minnesota Catholic school shooter has been identified as 20-year-old Robin Westman. On his gun and gun magazines were written anti-black, anti-Hispanic, and anti-Semitic messages, such as 6 million wasn't enough. He was not an immigrant. He's not Antifa. He's not ISIS. He's yet another right-wing, white nationalist, homegrown terrorist, just like all the others. If this had been a black person, a Muslim, or a Hispanic, then his pathology would have been applied to the whole group. He is not an aberration. He's not the first one. He is not a lone gunman. He was assisted, influenced by his community. You have to wonder, what is wrong with these people? This is from Madam OG. She asked the question. Or she hears the question. Almost every week, I see someone ask the question, why are white men so angry? While I cannot begin to expound on the many reasons why, what I can say is this. I view all social problems through the lens of societal systems because as a sociologist, that's what I'm trained to do. And here's the design flaw in systems of privilege. When you build systems of hierarchy and privilege, the privilege is actually what weakens you. The privilege makes you weak because you socialize an entire group of people to believe, I exist, therefore I deserve. I exist, therefore I am entitled. I exist, therefore the path of prosperity should be laid out very cleanly ahead of me, and I don't have to work hard, and I don't have to struggle, and I don't have to dig deep. I just have to receive. Okay, I'm going to interject here. And then I'm going to go on with Madam OG's analysis of this. And can you imagine, for 400 years, you have been given privilege and you are still behind? Especially when you are behind the very people that you participate in oppression and they get ahead of you. Meanwhile, back to Madam OG, meanwhile, you are socializing all other groups to survive with less resources, with less privilege. As a byproduct of their survival, they are becoming adaptable, resilient, creative, and resourceful. They are developing the muscle for survival that they subsequently turn into systems for success and prosperity. Meanwhile, the privileged group is not developing these systems. When they start to see the disenfranchised group become stronger, gaining opportunities and building systems of success, rather than saying, hey, maybe we ought to be doing that too. No. Privilege doubles down. Privilege digs deep into the well of anger and grievance and says, you are the reason why I can't be successful. You are taking opportunities away from me and my children and generations. So now, rather than develop the muscle of resilience, what I'm going to do now is to start taking privileges away from you. I'm going to start taking your resources. I'm going to start burning your house down in hopes that you will get back to where I think you ought to be, which is underneath me. Not realizing that the more you do that, the more privileges you take away, the more systems of success you try to dismantle, you're only making them more creative, more adaptable, more resilient, and more resourceful. So it becomes this Ouroboros, this snake eating its own tail. Because the very system that you designed to uplift yourself is actually the one that is putting you far behind, because you never developed the muscle, the work ethic, the resilience, the innovation, and the creativity of the disenfranchised group. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. All right. Patrice Gibbs here, right along. Just the other day, I saw a video. It was a viral video, captured the aftermath of a road rage confrontation in which a man allegedly yelled racial slurs at an 80-year-old black driver, leading to a heated outburst from the elderly man's daughter and a witness who saw the whole encounter. The clip shows a man in a polo shirt. What the hell was that? In a polo shirt, khaki pants, and flip-flops, walking to the convenience store of a gas station when he's confronted by a woman loudly reprimanding him about how he spoke to her father. The woman is accompanied by another man who also scolds the man about his behavior. You talking to an 80-year-old man done cussed him out, the woman said. He honked at me like that. I gotta smack his effing ass, the bystander said. After the bystander comes to the woman's aid, they both lambast the man in the polo shirt who stops to defend himself. I didn't say ish to him, the man says, while adding that the elderly driver stopped in the middle of the road. Oh, yes, you did, the woman shouts. Jump on me like that. I'll knock you the F out. You'll be sleeping in this parking lot, the bystander added, getting up in the man's face. The man asked, what, you been to prison? Oh, yeah, I've been to prison. I did 12 years already, punk. The bystander shouted before continuing to chastise the man for picking on the old man. I didn't pick on him. I asked why he stopped in the middle of the road. The bystander shouted, because he's effing 90 years old. At that, the man drops his argument and walks away. The elderly man's daughter turns to the bystander to thank him for defending her and her father. I appreciate that, man, the woman turns to the bystander to say. And the woman, she posted the video on TikTok. Mm-hmm. Then the clip was quickly shared on other platforms. I think she took it down, but it was shared so fast. Mm-hmm. And she responded thanking the guy that came up, the male bystander, who came to her and her father's rescue. And she thanked people for doing it. Kudos to the gentleman that helped her. Oh, yeah, by the way. Mm-hmm. The bystander was a white dude. See, this is what's going to have to happen. People checking their own kind when they raw. That's what needs to take place. You need to check your own kind when you see them raw. Yeah. Don't just be an ally, be an accomplice. When we're checking these races, be an accomplice. And don't just be an accomplice when I'm there. Be my friend. Be my accomplice when I'm not in the room. WHGE 95.3 FM. The Open Eye. Oh. All right. Patrice Gibbs, your third eye optometrist here. One thing, you know, that I like about black women, they ain't no punk. Like that sister that stood up for her father. Yeah. Or like Lisa Cook. You know, the orange disaster don't like no black people. You know, we are well aware of that. Mm-hmm. Especially not black people in power, especially not intelligent black people. Because he don't like nobody intelligent because his ass dumb as hell. Well, Federal Reserve Board governor's member, Lisa Cook, is thumbing her nose at the orange disaster, announcing plans to file a lawsuit in a case that's gripping the nation online and across network television. Cook says she had no intention in leaving her job after Trump. Yeah, I could so rarely call him Trump. I mispronounce. I can't get his name out sometime. The tangerine tyrant wannabe claimed they had terminated her in a post on social media. And then he had the nerve to call her, a step to her. He got on his little nasty ass social media with his little short thumbs. All right. President Trump purported to fire me for cause when no cause exists under the law. He has no authority to do so, Cook said in a statement. I will not resign and will continue my work to support the U.S. economy as I have since 2022. Cook's attorney, Abe Lowell, also added in his statement a day after Trump cited allegations of mortgage fraud for his reasons for firing Cook. He made that crap up. His attempt to fire her based solely on a referral letter lacks any factual or legal basis. We will be filing a lawsuit challenging this illegal action. Trump alleged Cook committed mortgage fraud in a letter that was posted to the president's social media platform, Truth Social. It's amazing he calls that crap Truth Social. I have determined there is sufficient cause to remove you from your position, he wrote. That's according to NBC. The Federal Reserve has tremendous responsibility for setting interest rates and regulating reserve and member banks, Trump stated. The American people must be able to have full confidence in the honesty of members entrusted with setting policy and overseeing the Federal Reserve. full confidence in the honesty of. Is he kidding? He actually said that. It's amazing the crap that come out this fool's mouth. In light of your deceitful and potentially criminal conduct in a financial matter, what's that called? Projection? Deceitful criminal conduct? Who does that describe? That describes the orange disaster sitting in the White House. Last week, Trump called on Cook to resign after the head of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, Bill Polk, claimed the Biden appointee committed fraud by listing 2 primary residents, one in Michigan and one in Atlanta. The president can remove members of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors for cause, but it remains to be seen whether the accusations against Cook rise to that level. If Cook does sue, the case could be decided by the Supreme Court. But you know what? He's scared to death of an intelligent woman. Black women have zero problem standing up to this punk. And that's why he's scared of them. Yeah. Some social media users claim Cook was a DEI hire. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, meaning she was hired under diversity, or as I just said, under DEI policies, diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. That the orange disaster is now slashed and burned. He not only removed our DEI program from the federal government, arguing the programs represent a so-called woke mindset, but he also threatened corporate America and colleges and universities across the country, demanding they close down diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because that gives non-whites an even playing field. We know that, that these mediocre WEIs, white, entitled, and incompetent, can't compete. Yeah, sir. Yeah. And Cook said, I do not take any questions about my financial history seriously as a member of the Federal Reserve. And so I am gathering the accurate information to answer any legitimate questions and provide facts. And of course, we know in order for her to be appointed, she had to be far and above just qualified, especially as a black woman. Okay? The probability is she was not a DEI hire. She was just a very qualified black woman. No surprise there. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. WHGE 95.3 FM, the education advocacy station. Yeah, you tune in here, you're going to get an education. You know, one of the things that the tangerine tyrant covets is a Nobel Peace Prize. Why in the hell he thinks he deserves one, I have no idea. This is from Norway Girl Around the World. Regarding the Nobel Peace Prize, I live in Oslo, Norway, where the prize is awarded. Relax. We don't give out peace prizes to lunatics who send in the National Guard against their own goddamn people. take away health care from people, arrest innocent people in concentration camps are racist, shut down education and research, banning books, are against women voting and having abortions, are friends with Putin, trying to take Greenland and Canada, and has an administration full of incompetent morons from Fox News. He ain't getting no Nobel Peace Prize. You ain't gotta worry about that. Man, he running around making up laws and this, that, and the other. And put out an executive order about the burning of the flag. Well, a combat veteran named Jay Carey set fire to an American flag in front of the White House to challenge a recent executive order by the Orange disaster that targeted flag desecration as a federal offense. Secret Service agents quickly extinguished the flames and Carey was detained. But authorities charged him not for burning the flag, but for lighting a fire in a federal park, which is a separate violation. Video footage and multiple reports captured Carey identifying himself as a 20-year-old Army veteran, explaining no president can make a law, period. No Congress should make a law infringing on First Amendment rights. And he added, I'm burning this flag as a protest to that illegal fascist president that sits in that house. After his release, Carey stated his purpose was to stand up for free speech and detest the legality of the order, insisting, we burn this flag in protest to that president who feels that it's his right to do whatever he wants, make whatever laws he wants, regardless whether it's legal or illegal. While the arrest caught national attention and provoked a wave of criticism toward the executive order, the legal reality is that burning the American flag, excuse me, itself, let me say that again. The legal reality is that burning the American flag itself is protected as free speech in the United States. The right to burn the flag as a form of protest has been upheld by the Supreme Court most decisively in 1989 in the case Texas versus Johnson, which recognized flag burning as political and symbolic speech under the First Amendment. The ruling made clear that no federal or state law can override this constitutional protection, affirming that nobody in power can lawfully criminalize this act of protest, even if it offends or angers those watching. It's called freedom of speech. And of course, anybody that's, inherently stupid, can't take criticism, thin-skinned, illiterate, can't take free speech. All right? That's why he's doing the crap he's doing, trying to take over cities and what have you. I like what the DA from Pennsylvania said. You send ICE here, you send the National Guard here, and they break the law, kidnapping people, abusing people, violating people's rights, brutalizing people. We gonna lock your ass up. So come on up to Pennsylvania with that crap. Remind y'all of something. What can happen, all right, when you deploy the National Guard. That's where, what's up, Reverend Slaughter, Black Power. When you deploy the National Guard. Remember the Kent State shootings? Also known as the Kent State Massacre, where the killing of 4 and wounding of 9 unarmed college students by the Ohio National Guard on Kent State University in Kent, Ohio. The shootings took place on May 4th in 1970 during a rally opposing the expanding involvement of the Vietnam War into Cambodia. 28 National Guard soldiers fired. 28 National Guard soldiers fired about 67 rounds over 13 seconds, killing 4 students and wounding 9 others, one of whom sustained permanent paralysis. Yeah. The 4 students, Allison Cross, 19 years old, Jeffrey Miller, 20, Sandra Lee Shure, 20, died at the scene, while Will Schroeder, 19, was pronounced dead at Robinson Memorial Hospital shortly afterwards. That's for those of you that have forgotten, those of you that may not have known about that. Sending the National Guard against American citizens, and they shot them down. You think it can't happen again? That's word. And like Stephen Leach said, don't forget Jackson State. Black students murdered there. How's the orange disaster getting away with what he's doing in the nation's capital? Every time they show the city on the news, I'm reminded why Parliament made a song about Washington, D.C. and called it Chocolate City, because black people are everywhere. But it looks like the residents of the city are living in a police state. Federal agents being out on the streets is one thing, but seeing military personnel patrolling the streets carrying service weapons is something completely different. You'd expect Trump's MAGA base to support him, because that is what they do with their dumbasses. But where's the outcry about this for moderate Republicans? And while there is some grumbling among Democrats, why has their response been so tepid? Put bluntly, where's the outcry from white people? Want to hear an uncomfortable truth? White people are allowing it to happen because many of them are comfortable with the over-policing of black people. Don't believe me? Sit back and read Classes in Session. Or sit back and listen, Classes in Session. In the summer of 2020, the murder of George Floyd captured the attention of corporations and white people to such a degree they started posting black squares on social media. That was them saying, I'm paying attention. I'm concerned about the way police treat black people. But there's an implicit truth that comes to light, because at that moment, black people have been over-policed in this country for over a century. But it took a black man being killed on camera for them to give a damn about it. The reality is that our brothers and sisters who put questionable things in their potato salad have been comfortable with black communities being overpoliced for generations. There are the blatant racists who say that black people are inherently criminal and therefore need to be surveilled. And that's the argument that slave owners made when abolition was on the horizon. So people who would say something like that are the easy targets for this kind of analysis. But then there are people like Bill Clinton and Joe Biden, politicians who are supposedly on the side of black people, who advocated for the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994. That was the bill that led to increased policing in black communities, made the school-to-prison pipeline exponentially worse, and resulted in millions of black men being thrown into prison on drug charges, many times trumped up. This is but one example of good white people being quite comfortable with the over-policing of black bodies. If you want to bring it down to a local level, all you need to do is look at the history of allegedly liberal cities like Boston, New York City and Los Angeles to see that even when the municipality is supposed to be democratic, there's still a comfortability with treating black communities like they are inherently unsafe and therefore in need of police presence. Where is there not more of an outcry about the president sending troops into D.C.? I'm not saying it is because this adheres to a centuries-old pattern of over-policing black bodies. But I'm not saying that is what is going on either, because that is what's going on. Over-policing of black bodies is not new. And white people, conservative or liberal, are not uncomfortable with that. It's part of the problem. WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. WHGE 95.3 FM. You're enjoying The Open Eye. You know, it's something that, of course, what the Orange Disaster claims is that the reason for this is because these cities are violent and overridden with crime, in spite of places like D.C. where the crime has been steadily declining and is at the lowest point it's been in 30 years. Like I said in that last segment, the idea that black people are inherently criminal and violent. It's amazing how these white races have convinced the world that it's black people who are violent and we have no history of violence against them. They have a long history of violence against our people. That is from Jorge the Vanguard. Europeans have always been violent. Not the noble kind of warrior spirit that other people's temper would cause an honor ritual or restraint, but the sloppy, lice-infested, incest-ridden anathema of a people whose only creative outlet was bloodletting. When the Maya carved monuments, when the Malians mapped the stars, when the Maori sang histories into the ways the Europeans were fashioning each other's skulls with rust and iron, frothing with rabies, and calling it kingship. Their violence was never elegant, never disciplined, never purposeful. It was compulsive, festering like the scabs they scratch until infected. Take the comparative picture. East Asian warfare gave us Sun Tzu's strategy, careful discipline, and entire treaties on minimalizing unnecessary deaths. European warfare gave us pig-headed crusaders trudging through mud, drunk on spoiled ale, raping everything that moved and burning everything that didn't. The indigenous nations of the Americas practiced ritualized combat, often designed to test courage rather than annihilate whole societies. Europeans arrived from it with smallpox and steel and turned their battlefields into genocide, enslaving children, salting soil, and calling it victory. Even African kingdoms, when clashing, treated captives as people to be integrated, ransomed, or married into families. Europeans saw captives only as meat for shackles, markets, and mutilation, and their cannibalism. Violence was their economy. While others traded knowledge, crops, astronomy, and navigation, Europeans traded severed ears, cut hands, and shackled bodies. Even their art was violent. Gory tapestries, paintings of saints impaled, statues of emperors stomping naked captives. They could not imagine beauty without domination. Could not imagine order without slaughter. And when famine struck, instead of communal care, they turned on their neighbors like lice-ridden wolves, stealing bread, deporting peasants, cannibalizing children. Yes, literal cannibalism in famine-ridden castles and war camps. What makes it worse is that incestuous atrocities codified violence in the bloodlines. Inbreeding kings who could barely speak without drooling signed decrees to butcher millions abroad. The same hands that scratched their syphilitic crotches signed charters for slave ships. The same rotten mouths riddled with blackened teeth declared civilization while dunking entire continents into centuries of organized slaughter. So when Europeans say history is violence, they're really saying we are violent and we drag the rest of the world into our filth. Their violence is not universal. It is uniquely obsessive, compulsive, and unrelenting. Where others fought, they annihilated. When others raided, they exterminated. Where others competed, they enslaved. Their history is not a story of kings and queens, but of lice, insects, blood, and smoke. A continent forever gnawing on its own rot and then exporting that rot to everyone else. WHGE 95.3 FM, Open Eye. All right. Patrice Gibbs here, your third eye optometrist. Earlier, I admonished people to educate their children. Okay? Especially with this whitewashing going on. Let me tell you how bad this is. All right? Tell you how bad. This is the conservative version of American history. A true history as told by someone who knows. See, it all started with the Pilgrims, who after being persecuted by the evil, fun-hating British, set sail for a completely new land. When they arrived, they discovered an empty continent, a blank slate for freedom, with no people on it at all. The land was so perfect and pristine that they immediately became best friends with the people they did find, giving them food. Because, they were totally starving. It was a beautiful friendship. Then came the revolution. We created the freest country on earth, a shining city on a hill. And everything was great until the evil Democrats got involved. They were the ones who brought slaves from Africa. And look, let's be honest. Slavery really wasn't that bad. And slaves were expensive. So why would anyone beat them? It just doesn't make sense, no matter what the liberals try to tell you. Besides, white people had it hard back then too. They were poor and worked all the time. And if you're going to talk about it, you should also mention that there were black slave owners. So really, it's a wash. The war of northern aggression in modern times. America then had to go to war with the Confederate Democrats. But let's be clear, the Confederacy is our heritage. It's about celebrating Southern pride. That's why we need to keep all them statues of Confederate generals. The Civil War wasn't about slavery. It was about states' rights to, it was about states' rights. And the right to be free from tyranny, After that, America saved the world in World War II. It sure as hell did, y'all. And we was just minding our own business, being good guys, when the Japanese attacked us. For absolutely no reason. So we had to do what we do best. Win the war and save the world from itself. And then finally there was the civil rights movement, where conservatives were the good guys, totally. They the ones who truly wanted everyone to be free, unlike the Democrats who just wanted more votes. Oh, and the Vietnam War, well, that was really kind of a tie. And that's the whitewashing, the American myth that these dumbasses want to teach your children. Never mind that the Black Holocaust lasted 246 years. 246 years of slavery from 1619 to 1865. That's the reality. 99 years of Jim Crow from 1865 all the way up to 1964 in my lifetime. 86 years of lynching from 1882 to 1986. No. Didn't stop in 86 because that crap's still going on. The civil rights era was 14 years from 1954 to 1968. And police brutality, still going. Yeah. Now, the Supreme Court didn't have the authority. The Supreme Court found that Biden didn't have the authority as president to cut student loans. They're out of Congress. And then right out of the other side of their mouths, this corrupt court found that the orange disaster has the authority to cut the whole government and eliminate entire agencies unilaterally. This court's function was to ensure everything Biden did was struck down as an abuse of authority. But now there isn't anything Trump doesn't have the power to do. This is the most compromised, partisan, unethical Supreme Court in generations. And you get Chief Justice Roberts actually came out his mouth and said the rule of law is eroding like we've rarely seen. Maybe he should have thought of that before ruling the president is above the law. You don't get to burn the house down and then act shocked when there's a goddamn fire. Damn. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. Yeah. WHGE 95.3 FM, overnight. Patrice Gibbs here. You know, I usually end my show, especially the Facebook part of my show, with global African supremacy. Because it's coming. An African nation which was previously crumbling and had its post occupied by the United States. Okay? Well, the United States has just lost control of that nation. That was critical to their interests. Washington is losing. Now everyone was distracted. Captain Traoré made a power move that threatens America's hegemony across the entire continent. What happened is that Traoré just launched a gold-backed currency which directly challenges the U.S. dollar system that has controlled Africa for generations. This means there will be no more begging for dollars and no more brutal conditions from the International Monetary Fund. Just an economy based on something that is stable and tangible. Not ready for that. Now, money is rarely the main concern for the U.S. It almost always comes down to who has more power. The dollar system gave America a tremendous influence over African nations. If you want to trade, you need dollars. If you want to loan, you have to obey their rules. Traoré found a loophole that America just can't compete with. Africa owning its own gold reserves. For the U.S., it's much more than just one nation. If Burkina Faso succeeds, then Mali comes right after, then Niger. Before you know it, America's economic leverage over Africa is no longer a threat. That's why Western media is calling this risky. This is the same way they attacked Gaddafi's gold dinar plan before destroying Libya. Pay attention to detail. But here's what they're not saying. This revolution is working. Burkina Faso's new currency is stable. Russian partnerships are replacing French ones. And across Africa, young leaders are watching closely. Yes, indeed. Can you imagine this? This from an African brother, an educator. Every African nation decided to unite with just one agreement. Here's what will happen in the first 30 days, and you will never see day 30 coming. Day 1, leaders signed one historic treaty, borders open across the continent. No visas, no checkpoints, just one African passport. Day 2 to 4, social media erupts. Families separated by colonial borders unite, and students apply for universities thousands of miles away without a second thought. Days 5 to 7, traders move goods freely. Ports in Kenya, Nigeria, and South Africa start seeing record traffic. And landlocked countries finally have ocean access without foreign fees. Days 8 through 12, airlines announce new Pan-African flight routes. Roads and rails projects get greenlit overnight, and tourism explodes as Africans start exploring their own continent. Day 13 through 17, small businesses boom. Markets are filled with products from every corner. Ghanaian chocolate in Sudan, Ethiopian coffee in Senegal, and Congolese fashion in Morocco. Yeah. Days 18 through 21, the rest of the world can't act like it's not happening. Western media headlines read, new superpower emerges. And trade partners scramble to renegotiate their deals. Yeah. Day 22 through 25. Things get a little spicy. African tech companies emerge. African tech companies merge resources, sharing energy grids, satellite, and internet infrastructure, which slashes costs. A single currency is introduced. Day 26 through 29, foreign corporations panic. They can't play African nations against each other anymore. Investments shift inward as African banks fund African projects. Day 30. Africa isn't just a continent. It's the world's largest single market, the youngest workforce, the richest resource base. Let that sink in. For the first time in centuries, every African knows it. They called it a sleeping giant. Turns out it was never asleep. It was just waiting to move as one. WHGE 95.3 FM. Global African Supremacy. The Open Eye. All right. What's up, bro? How you doing? All right. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. All right. Coming around here. All right. Let me tell you something. Check this out right here. The festering carcass of American rot shoved into an ill-fitting suit. That's what the tangerine tyrant is. The sleaze of a con man, the cowardice of a draft dodger, the gluttony of a parasite, the racism of a Klansman, the sexism of a back alley creep, the ignorance of a bar stool drunk, and the greed of a hedge fund ghoul, all spray painted orange and paraded like a prize hog at a county fair. Not a president, not even a man. He is arrogance dressed up as exceptionalism. Stupidity passed off as common sense. Cruelty sold as toughness. Greed exalted as ambition, and corruption worshipped like gospel. It is an America's shadow made flesh, a rotting pumpkin idol, proving that when a nation kneels before money, power, and spite, it doesn't just lose its soul. Yeah, I got this button now. It doesn't just lose its soul. It shits out this bloated obscenity and calls it a leader. And nothing to do with leadership. Yeah, this is purported to be from Don Vito Corleone. If you hold a gun and I hold a gun, we can talk about the law. If you hold a knife and I hold a knife, we can talk about rules. If you come empty-handed and I come empty-handed, we can talk about reason. But if you have a gun and I only have a knife, then the truth lies in your hands. If you have a gun and I have nothing, what you hold isn't just a weapon, it's my life. The concepts of law, rules, and morality only hold meaning when they are based on equality. The harsh truth of this world is that when money speaks, truth goes silent. And when power speaks, even money takes 3 steps back. Those who create the rules are often the first to break them. Rules are chains for the weak and tools for the strong. In this world, anything good must be fought for. The masters of the game are fiercely competing for resources while the weak idly wait to be given a share. Don't sit around and wait for your share. WHGE 95.3 FM, the Open Eye. Oh, what's up, bro? How you doing?
All right, good show.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Coming to the close of the show here. I hope you learned something, because I learned something before I got here, as I always say. And as we always tell you, destiny determines who enters your life, but You decide who stays. Therefore, value those who value you. And don't treat those as a priority who treat you as an option. WHGE 95.3 FM, The Open Eye. I'm Patrice Gibbs. Thanks for joining us. All right. Hope you're enjoying the show. Brother here complimenting my show. Appreciate that, bro. Okay. All right. Hey, make sure you tune in. What time the show? Come on, 4 o'clock. 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock. That's word. Yes, indeed. Tune in. This is not the only show on. 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Be on WHGE. And like I always tell you, global African supremacy. Because the world was a much better place when the African ruled. Peace.